Okay, there we go. So, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the next rendition of the Tuesday TechnoLive starter session. I hope that everybody is having a good week so far, and that everybody is keeping busy with different things. So I hope everybody is keeping well and during these quite strange times. So today we're going to be, like I said, carrying on with the next rendition of our TechnoLive sessions, and we'll be doing that today through some more coding. So we're going to be doing a little bit more coding this week. So of course last week we were having a look at the BBC microbit, and we were having a look at ways in which we could program our microbit to give a little bit of a fireworks display, and to do that we were using block-based programming. And this week we're going to be doing something similar, but we won't be using a microbit and we won't be programming any fireworks this week. But what we'll be doing this week is we'll be having a go at building up algorithms using block-based programming to control a very small Minecraft character. Now, this isn't going to be something that we're doing on actual Minecraft, but we're going to be using a website today called Hour of Code. Okay, so those of you who might be familiar with Hour of Code, it's essential. But for those of you who aren't, it's essentially a website where you can do a whole bunch of different sort of activities that are related to coding. Okay, it's very, very popular, as I'm sure you can see on my screen now. It's a very, very popular website with an awful lot of people using it. And we're going to be some of those people that are using it today. So before we get into the actual activity that we'll be doing today, I would just like to talk to you a little bit about some things that TechnoCamps are running / participating in, for those of you who might be interested. So the first thing I would like to mention is about our Game of Codes competition. So our Game of Codes competition is a programming competition. So hopefully all of you will be able to see it on my screen as well now, where we'll be able to, where you'll be able to essentially develop lots and lots of different skills whilst producing a piece of software that follows the theme of the education of the future. Okay, now it doesn't have to follow a set, programming language or anything like that. It can be anything from Scratch, for those of you who are quite familiar with Scratch, or it could be something like Python. Okay, it could be that you use some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It can be whatever you want. It can even be a microbit like we were using last week. So, if you are interested in participating in this competition, the link is just at the top of the screen here, but you're also able to go to the TechnoCamps website. Okay, and if I just go back to the TechnoCamps website, you'll be able to see, if you scroll down on the home page to the latest news section, you can see that there's a Game of Codes competition article here. And if you click on that, you'll be taken through to where you can enter, as well as various different instructions on what happened, on how you need to, on what you need to do to participate. Now, the deadline for submitting your completed entries is the 19th of February 2021. So you have plenty of time to get involved. Okay, might be a project for the Christmas holidays and things like that. So if those of you who are interested, feel free to take a look at this. And also, the other event which TechnoCamps is participating in is actually a competition that's run in association with the Welsh Rugby Union, which is our stadium of the future competition, I believe. If anybody is interested in wanting to participate in either of these things, then, like I said, if you wanted to participate in the Game of Codes competition, then feel free to contact us via, feel free to enter via this link on our website. If any of you wanted to participate in the Welsh Rugby Union competition and you wanted to have a bit more information about it, then feel free to get in touch. Which of course brings us through to how you can contact us today during this live stream. So myself and my colleague Joe from the TechnoCamps Bangor Hub are going to be available to assist you throughout today's live session. So if anybody does have any does need any assistance or has any questions that they would like to ask us about what we're doing today, then you can do that by simply going to the TechnoCamps website, and you can select this chat with one of our delivery team icons in the bottom here. If you do this, there will be a series of instructions for you to follow on how you can get in touch with us during today's live stream, and we will then do our best to assist you with any questions that you might have. You know, no questions are bad questions, okay? So it doesn't matter what you want to ask, just feel free to ask and we will do our best to help you. So I think that's everything that I wanted to cover with you all at the start of this stream. Remember, if there are any questions about anything, competitions, or today, or anything about what we're doing today, then don't hesitate to get in touch and we'll do our best to help you. But in the meantime, without further ado, let's get to what we're actually doing today, which is of course doing some hour of code activities. So what I would like everybody to do is just navigate over to the Hour of Code website. So if you go onto Google and just type in Hour of Code, or you can type in this URL, which is on at the top of my screen here in my URL bar. So hourofcode.com/UK. That will take you through to the Hour of Code website. And what you can do is, what will happen is you should be brought to this screen here. So if what I'll do is I'll just give everybody a chance to get caught up and get to navigate over to the Hour of Code website, and then we'll carry on in just a minute on how we can actually find our the activities that we're going to be doing today. Okay, so hopefully everybody's managed to navigate over to this website. So what I'd like you all to do now is select this Activities tab that runs along the top of the screen here, and you'll get brought into this area. Now there are lots and lots and lots of different activities available, okay? There are lots of different ones, and feel free in your own time to have a look at some of these if any of them are of interest to you, and okay, and you would like to learn a little bit more about different programming languages and things like that. But like I said, today what we're going to be doing is looking at Minecraft specifically. So if you click on this computer science only tick box here, which is on the left of the screen under topics, you will see that we have this Minecraft Hour of Code activity menu that's been brought up on my screen here. So I'll click on that, and you can see that there's a lot of information that appears. Okay, if you click on Start, you'll be brought through to this tab. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that on my screen. I will just give everybody a second to get caught up. I should point out, by the way, in case I didn't mention it a second ago, that the competition with the Welsh Rugby Union that TechnoCamps is a part of is built, involves building a stadium within Minecraft. Okay, so for those of you who are quite proficient in Minecraft and have been using it for quite a while, it might be something for you to consider participating in. Okay, so hopefully we've all reached this page now. So at the top of the page we can see that there's different tutorials. Okay, well, the whole page is full of different resources, different videos and things like that. Okay, but the tutorial that I'm going to be following today is the Minecraft Voyage Aquatic session, okay, or tutorial. Now, if you want to follow another tutorial, that's also okay, but I will be following the Minecraft Voyage Aquatic tutorial today, and I will be talking everybody through it as I'm working through it. Okay, so for those of you who are because this tutorial is run using block-based programming like we did last week with the microbit, for those of you who are used to block-based programming and have used a lot of it before, a lot of you might want to go ahead and start maybe with the Voyage Aquatic tutorial and then move on into Hero's Journey or something like that. However, feel free to follow along with me if you would like a little bit of help. Okay, we're all here to learn together, so don't feel like you have to rush through anything or keep up with anybody else. We're all here to kind of learn together and at the same pace. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to be following the Minecraft Voyage Aquatic tutorial today, so I'm going to hit the start button. Now there is a video that you can watch if you want to, okay, but you don't have to watch the video because I'll be hopefully talking us through this today, so we can just exit out of the video. And then you can choose a character. So I'm going to choose to play as Alex. So the videos are there if you want to have some helpful hints and tips, okay? But again, like I said, I will talk us through everything. But if you need some additional help, then feel free to either ask through the chat, okay, from the TechnoCamps website, or like I said, watch one of the videos, and it will hopefully give you some additional help there as well. So before we get going, like I said, I'll just make sure everybody's in the same place, so I'll just let everybody catch up. Okay. So at the start of every tutorial there will be a little bit of information about what you need to do with your code. Okay? So we can see here that we need to collect supplies for the voyage ahead. So we should collect a boat out of the chest. Now for those of you who are quite familiar with Minecraft, you may see that there's a lot of similarity between what we're doing here and what you could do in actual Minecraft. Now the concept of there being a boat inside of a chest might sound a little bit strange to those of you who have not used Minecraft before, but it is actually something that's possible. Okay. So I'm going to hit OK, and then we can see that like with our code last week, okay, we are brought to this window where we will see that on the right hand side we have got this coding window, okay, or coding zone, where we're able to actually place our blocks. So you'll be able to hopefully see that there are some blocks on the left of the screen here. Okay. We can also see, if I just highlight it quickly, that it says the number of blocks that have been placed that we need. Now what this is telling us here is that we need 3 blocks altogether to make this code work successfully, and we've so far only placed 2 of those blocks, so we're still going to need to place at least 1 more block in order to have this code run successfully. Okay. Now we've also, on the left hand side of the screen, we have this big window, okay, which will basically show us what is happening when our code runs. Okay, so like last week we had the microbit displayed in this section here. Okay, this week we're going to be watching our character, so either Alex or Steve, actually performing the actions that we've programmed them to do. So we have our code here, we have our blocks, and we're going to be building up, like last week, an algorithm, okay, which is a sequence of instructions which is going to be telling our computer, or in this case, at the very least for me, for Alex, what she needs to do. Okay, so I can see so far that I've got when run, so that's going to be when I click on this run button down here, and I've got move forward. So at the moment Alex is going to be moving 1 step forward. Okay, that's what this block is telling me. But we can see that if I hit run, this just isn't enough. She's not moving forward enough to actually reach the chest. Okay, so if you get it wrong, you can just hit reset, and then it will start everything over for you. And let's just say you accidentally place the wrong block or something like that, and you put it somewhere, and you need to delete it. You can drag it over to the left of the screen here, and it'll delete it for you. Okay. Now I saw that Alex needed to move forward at least 2 steps in order to make it to the chest. So if I place another move forward block here, we can see that my number of blocks needed has gone up to basically say that I now have enough blocks to make the program work. Doesn't necessarily mean I've used the right blocks, but I've used at least the correct blocks so far to make the program work. Now if I hit run, we can see that I've now reached the chest and I've completed the first puzzle. Okay. Now if you hit the, once you've finished a level, you'll get given this kind of box which tells you information about what's happened. Now what this is talking about here is, even though we have programmed our character to move in using block-based programming, we are actually building up a set of instructions, okay, so our algorithm, in a computer language called JavaScript, okay, which is code that tells the computers what to display on the screen. So if you were interested in looking at different types of code, you can see that what we have here are some examples of JavaScript, and it looks very similar to the blocks that we have just been placing. Okay, so if you wanted to have another go at doing that, you can hit replay. Otherwise we can just hit continue, and it will take us through to the next level. And we can see that there are different progress bar. The progress bar along the tops of the screen tells us how far along we've come. Now I'm not expecting you to be able to finish all of these activities today, okay, because I don't think I would be able to finish them in this in the amount of time that we have, okay, but we're going to be working through them as best we can. And like I said, feel free to work through them in your own pace. Okay, you don't have to stick to where I'm going. That's what I'm doing. You can go ahead if you want to do a little bit more. That's absolutely fine. Like I said, I'll just remind you all quickly before we carry on. If you do need any help, we are here to help you. Okay, myself and my colleague Joe we're both here to help you if you need it. So simply navigate over to the TechnoCamps website, okay, technocamps.com / or www.technocamps.com / and then EN if you want the English site. You can translate it into Welsh as well, okay. And if you did want to send a message in Welsh, feel free to do so, and I'll be able to help you with that, okay. And then you can simply click on the chat with one of our delivery team icons in the bottom right of the screen here and follow the instructions on how you can contact us, okay. So I'll just make sure that everybody's had a chance to get to this stage, and then we'll start programming our next script. Okay. So in this example, what we can see is that we now need to actually get Alex to move forward, turn, and then move forward a little bit more so that she can reach the boat, okay? So what's important to point out, okay, is that sometimes it's a good idea to plan, well actually it's always a good idea to plan what you're going to do before you start doing it, okay? So this way, when you actually start writing a program, you will already know roughly, doesn't have to be precise, but roughly what you need to do in order to get your program to work successfully, okay? So in this example, we can see that we have Alex here, and we need to get her to move forward a little bit. We need to get her to turn to the right and then move forward a little bit more in order to reach the boat, okay, the rowing boat. Now, I can build this sequence of instructions up using the 2 blocks that I have here, and I also need a total of 5 blocks altogether, and one of those blocks has already been placed for me, which is the when run block, okay? So let's give things a try. So Alex needs to get to the boat, so she first of all needs to move forward, I would say 1 space. Then I think she needs to turn to the right, so I'm going to get turn right block. Now the useful thing about this block is that you can also change the direction in which your character would be turning. So if you need the character to turn to the right, you can get her to turn to the right, or you can change it so that she goes to the left, okay? Of course in this case we want it to be turning to the right, because otherwise she's going to be walking into this bit of land here. And then I would say that she needs to walk around 2 steps to get to the boat. So I'm going to say move forward and move forward. And we can see now that the number of blocks placed says that I've placed all of the blocks that I will actually need. Okay, so I'm not going to need any more. As you can see now that it's highlighted in orange, which is saying that we don't need that additional block because you can build this program using 5 blocks, which is an important point to make actually, that sometimes it's it's always important to keep the code as simple as possible, okay? So I could have Alex go to the left here, I could have her go up a few blocks, I could have her go all the way to the end of the island, I could have her turn around, come all the way back and then go to the boat. But really, it's because of where she's standing already, it's just as easy to get her to go forwards, turn to the right, and then get to the boat, which is why the program is telling us here that we only need 5 blocks to actually finish what we're doing. So if I run this code, we can see that Alex has now reached the boat, okay? And then this is telling us here essentially that we've written 4 lines of code in this program, and therefore we've written a total of 6 lines of code altogether. And again, this is just telling us about the JavaScript that we are writing essentially writing our code in. Okay. So I'll just let everybody catch up with that before we carry on. Okay. So hopefully everybody's now at around the same place as I am. Again, if you wanted to go ahead, that is absolutely fine. There is no need for you to, unless you would like to stay in pace with where I am, feel free to go slightly further ahead if you would like to. Okay. So we can see now that the instructions given are that we need to grab the oars, which we have, and then pilot our boat across the open seas to catch the cod. And we can see that the cod is actually swimming around in the ocean here. Okay. Now looking at where Alex is in relation to the cod, we can see that really she is pretty much a straight line away from where the cod is. So what we need to do is work out how many blocks we need, how many spaces Alex needs to move forward to reach the cod. Now this, of course, here helps us identify that, because it is telling us that we need a total of 8 blocks, with 1 already being placed for us. So therefore we're going to need to move forward a total of 7 blocks. Okay, so I'm going to place 7 of these move forward blocks. There we go. And if I run my code, there we are. So Alex has now reached the cod and has caught it. Okay. So some of you might remember from last week that we introduced a concept called loops, okay, which would make our code, or will get bits of code to run over and over and over again. Okay. So one way, so of course in this example we haven't got that option, but at the moment what we're doing is we're placing a series of move forward blocks one after the other. But one thing that we could do, if the option was available, is we could have our move forward block placed inside of a loop. So maybe a for loop or a repeat 7 times block. And what that would do is it would, instead of us having to put 7 move forward blocks, we would only need to have the repeat block and 1 move forward block. And if we were to put that move forward block inside of the repeat block and say that that it needs to repeat 7 times, it would then allow us to move forward 7 times without us having to write out 7 move forward blocks. Okay, so that would be one way that you could make your code a lot simpler. Which is something that we're going to be looking at now. So again, there's a video here if anybody wants to watch it. Okay. But like I said, I'll be talking you through it. So what we have here is a repeat until goal block. Now this is an example of a loop, okay? And essentially what this loop is telling us is that the code is going to keep running until we have achieved the goal, which in this case is feeding that cod that we caught earlier to the dolphin. Okay, so instead of us having to write, look, so the dolphin we can see is pretty much directly in front of where Alex is. But instead of us having to write move forward several times, okay, all we need to do is place this move forward block inside of the repeat until goal block. Now we can see that the program is telling us that we only need 3 blocks, okay, which is a lot less than the 8 blocks that we needed to run the previous exercise, okay. So we have streamlined our code and streamlined our algorithm to be much simpler, but it still does the same job. And I think a lot of you would agree that what this code is doing, what this code is a lot easier to read. Okay, so now we're not having to read every single block in turn to see what it does through a very long list of blocks, but we're reading the blocks, and there's only 3 of those blocks in total. So we can see that we are running the code, or when the code is run, we're repeating this move forward block until we reach the goal. So if I hit run, we can see that we have achieved, we've reached the dolphin, okay. And what we can see, if we look at the JavaScript code, is that that move forward block here is now contained within a repeat until goal loop, which means that we would be repeating this code over and over and over again until we actually reach the goal. Okay? If anybody has got any questions that they would like to ask about that, then feel free to do so using the chat facility. Okay? And we'd be happy to explain it to you in a little bit more detail. Okay. Okay. So let's continue. So here we are, okay, and this time we're actually underwater. Now we need to be able to get a shell, okay, that is hidden somewhere, and it looks like it might be inside of this chest. So we need to figure out a way of getting to this chest. Now there's a lot more problem solving to be done here, because they've told us that we only need 5 blocks altogether, and they've given us 4 of those blocks. So somewhere in here we need to use one of these blocks to get us to the goal. Now of course, if I was to run this code now, we can see that Alex keeps banging her head against the side of the screen because she just keeps on moving forwards and not turning. So what that suggests to us is that Alex needs to be able to turn at some point. Okay. Now one thing I'd like to emphasize as well is that it's okay to make mistakes. Okay. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time when I'm programming. Okay, all the time. And it's completely normal for you to make mistakes. Okay. It happens to the best of us, and there's no need to worry. One of the best ways that you can help alleviate mistakes is, like I said earlier, through planning, but also through running your code. So like I did just then, when I ran my code, I could see that quite clearly there's a problem with that code because we're not achieving the outcome that we expected. Okay. So even if you've planned your code and you think that it's going to work, sometimes it doesn't always work first time, and that's okay. The important thing is that you go back to it and you troubleshoot it and you try and figure out what the problem is and then try and fix it. Okay? So I'm going to try something now, and I'm going to say that my turn right block needs to go at the end of this repeat until goal. Okay, now let's see if that works. doesn't seem to be quite right, does it? Because Alex is going round and round in a circle and she keeps banging her head against the side of my screen. So something's not quite right there. And so this is just going back to that point of, even though it's telling us that we've placed the correct number of blocks, something's not quite right in my code. So I'm going to take this turn right block out. I'm going to try putting it at the start of my repeat until block and see if that works. And there we go. So you can see there that there was obviously a problem. Okay. And I'd obviously made a mistake. But that's okay. It is always okay to make a mistake when programming, because sometimes things don't work as expected, and sometimes we just need to rejig some things around to make sure that they're actually all working until it works correctly. Okay? And then hopefully you can all see the JavaScript on my screen as well, which is where we have a series of these different things, different instructions, which are going to keep running until we reach the goal. So moving on to the next exercise, it's important to point out that during these programs, okay, they will get slightly harder, and like I said a second ago, mistakes do happen, and that's okay. Okay. Now in this example, we need a total of 10 blocks, but we've already got one placed, and we need to catch a salmon, okay, on our way to the underwater ruins, and the salmon is over here. We can see that we've got to navigate through a little bit of a maze. Now they're starting to give us a little bit more blocks to work with. Now I mentioned this block earlier, this repeat 3 times block, which of course would be very, very useful to us to build up our algorithm. Okay, so I'm going to build up an algorithm. So I'm going to say that Alex needs to move forward 3 times to begin with. Now there are lots of different ways, as you can see, to get through this maze. I'm just going to go with the way that I believe is quickest, but some of you might decide to go a different way. And I'm going to say that Alex is going to move forward a total of 3 times. Okay. I'm then going to say that she needs to turn to the right, because that seems to be the only direction she can go. Once she's turned to the right, I'm then going to say that she can move forward 3 times again. Then turn to the left. Move forward another 3 times. Turn to the right. And then repeat until three times. Now, this could work, okay? Let's try it. So we can see now that we have a problem. Something's not quite right. So let's have a look at another look and see where the problem is. So we're going forward again. We're turning to the left and we're going all over the place. So let's break down what this piece of code is doing. We're moving forward 3 times. We're turning to the right. We're moving forward another 3 times. We're turning to the left. And here's where I've made a mistake. Instead of using the move forwards block, I have used turn 3 times to the right. So there's my first mistake. I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to replace it with move forwards. Let's try it this time. So something's not quite right here either. So what I seem to have done is I've forgotten the turn to the right block. So let's try it this time. Okay, so that worked. Okay, however, as the message box says here, it's also possible to complete it with 10 blocks. Okay, so let's try again. Let's reset. Now we can see that the path that I took was I went up, I turned to the right, then I turned to the left, turned to the right again to get to the salmon. Okay, but you can see that it says that I've used a total of 12 blocks, and it's actually possible to do it in 10. So let's try a different approach. So I'm going to move forward 3 times and turn to the right, and then I'm going to get rid of all of this code, and I'm going to move forward a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. And I'm simply going to change this number 3 to being a number 6 using the keyboard. I'm then going to turn to the left, and then I'm going to say repeat until goal finished, move forwards. Now let's see if that works. So in this example, I only used a total of 8 lines of code, or 9 lines technically, as opposed to 10. So I just made the code much more efficient. Now, when it was that repeat 3 times block that I was talking about, can be thought of as what's known as a for loop. Now, all of this looks a little bit confusing. Okay, so there's no need to worry about what any of this means. But if you wanted to think about a for loop in a repeat block in programming terms, okay, then it can be also thought of as being a for loop. Okay, and essentially all this block of code here, all of these lines of code, all it's essentially saying is that Alex is going to move forward a total of 3 times. So it seems like a lot of writing to just get her to move forward a few times. But this is how the program would be written in JavaScript. Okay? So let's move on. Again, there's another video here you can watch if you need any help. Okay? But once again, we're back in a slightly more tricky path. Okay? So hopefully everybody's catching up so far. Remember, if anybody has got any questions, to follow the chat facility on the Technocamp's website in order to reach us. Okay, and we'll help you as best we can. So what we're seeing here in this example is an introduction to what we call if statements, which we can see here. Now, an if statement, okay, is essentially where the computer will check whether or not a condition is true. So there's a lot of big words there, but what that basically means is that if there is something, so for an example, if we're looking at this as an example, the computer is saying if path to the right, okay? So what this is basically saying is that if there's a path that we can take to the right, then it's going to run some code, okay? And that is all it's saying. So it is checking whether or not something can happen, and if it can happen, then it will do it. If it can't happen, then it won't do it. Okay? So it's, if you were thinking about it in English, okay, just in English terms, if you can do something, then do this. Okay? So, I don't know, let's just say if there's an ice cream van outside, you can go and get ice cream. But if there's no ice cream van outside, you can't go and get ice cream. Okay? It's the same principle here. So we need to get to the chest, okay, to get some treasure. So looking at this code, it says that I need to add another 3 blocks to make it complete, okay? And I'm going to say that if there's a path to the right, I am going to turn right and then move forwards. Okay, now I've not apparently used all of the blocks possible, but maybe I've made the code more efficient, so let's find out. So we'll test it. And there we go. So despite it saying that I actually needed 7 blocks in total, I only added an additional 5, meaning that we only use 6 blocks altogether. And we can see this concept of an if statement coming in here as well. Okay? And if statements are used all the time in programming, okay, because it's all about checking whether or not we're able to, or whether or not the computer is able to do something. Okay, so when you're writing code, you will find that if statements and loops are very, very, very common, and they're used all the time. Okay, so they're a really good concept to understand and to get your head around quite early on, because you will use them a lot. You'll find that you use them a lot in programming, okay, in block-based programming. You'll find that you'll use them a lot in Scratch, okay, which is of course another form of block-based programming, but also in things like Python, maybe in JavaScript, okay, in Java. Lots and lots of different programming languages out there that you can use today, and that is an example of one of the more common programming concepts that you will use. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. So hopefully everybody is keeping up. If I am going too fast or going too slow, you can send me a message, okay? And I will adjust my speed of delivery accordingly. Okay, so here we are, and we need to get through this volcanic island to find the tropical fish in the coral reef. Now we can see where the tropical fish is. Okay, the tropical fish, whoops, is down here, and this is where we need to get to. Okay, we need to get to this tropical fish. So again, we need to add another 6 blocks, and we need to decide what we're actually going to be doing. So we can see that we need to go forward, we need to turn to the right, we need to turn to the right again, and then we need to turn to the right again, okay, in order to get to the fish. Now, I could go move forward, move forward, move forward, and just write lots and lots of move forward, you know, turn right and things like that, but that would just be a waste of time, because we can use a loop. So I'm going to say repeat until goal, and I'm going to say if path to the I'm going to say move forwards. Okay, so we're going to start off by going forwards, and every single time the code is run, this loop is run, okay, it's going to check whether or not there's a path to the right. If there is a path to the right, we're going to turn to the right. Okay, so if there's no path to the right, the loop is just going to start again, because the condition of the loop is that we need to keep repeating until we reach the goal. Okay, so if there is no path to the right, we're not going to turn to the right, we're just going to keep moving forwards. But if there is a path to the right, we're going to turn right, and then we're going to carry on moving forwards. Now I've had here a total of 5 blocks. Okay. It's saying that I can use a total of 7. So let's see if this code works. So we're off to a good start. There we go. So again, you can see that what I've done here is I've made the code much more efficient, and I'm using what we call a nested approach. So I have got my loop, okay, so my repeat until, and inside of that I have an if statement. And when you place code inside of other code, we can call it nesting. Okay, so we're putting code inside of other code. So in this case, we're placing that if statement inside of the repeat until loop. Okay. Okay. So we've now made it to the reef, and we need to search for the heart of the sea. Okay. So we need to use the blue and red coral, so that's this blue and red coral here, to reach the treasure chest. Now what we can see is that we've been given 2 new if statements here, where if we're standing on the blue coral or if we're standing on the red coral. Okay? Now, doesn't matter what we do, okay? Every time we stand on a particular bit of coral, we have to tell the program what it needs to do next. Okay, so 9 blocks altogether, so we need to add another 8. So I'm going to start off with a repeat until goal, so that way we keep looping through the program until we reach the goal. Okay, and now I need to tell my program what it needs to do. So I'm going to say, what can we say? So let's say move forwards, and if we're standing on blue coral, then we need to turn to the right, but if we're standing on red coral, we need to turn to the left. Okay, now I'm not sure if this is going to work, but it's worth a try. And again, it's all about testing and making sure that our program is working as expected. Now, in programming languages like Scratch and things like that, you would have what's known as an if-else. Okay, and what we could say here, we can have an if, and then we can say else, and the else would basically be what happens if we're not standing on a bit of blue coral, what will happen alternatively. We can also have an else if, which is where we could have lots and lots of different things. So it could be if standing on blue coral, turn right, else if standing on red coral, turn left. But we don't have an else if here, and we don't have an else if in Scratch either, I don't believe. But nonetheless, let's see if this bit of code works. So we're off to a fairly good start so far. We might encounter our first problem here. Oh, but we're still going, so it's good news so far. So there we go. So then again, we're seeing here this idea of if statements, loops, okay, and this nested structure. And we can see that the move forward if and if, the 2 if statements, they are what we call indented, okay, which represents that nesting that I mentioned a second ago. So you can see that there's a bit of a gap here. So the repeat until goal function is right pressed up against the end of at the start of the line. Okay, there's no gap between that R and the start of the line. But if I go down to move and the if statements, you can see that there's a bit of a gap between each one. And what we call that is indentation. Okay, this is indentation. And it represents the fact that we have nested these things inside of this. So we are nesting our code. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. But there's lots and lots of different examples of this seen frequently in programming. Okay, we do it all the time, and this is the type of thing. This is, like I said, an example of indentation and nesting. Okay, so it's very, very important. It's a very, very important concept. Okay, so we are actually slowly starting to come towards the end of today's live stream. Okay, so I have got a couple of, as you can see, I still have 3 more levels left to do. Okay, so what I will suggest, or what I would suggest, is that that you try and finish these off in your own time. Okay, and see whether or not you can apply those programming principles that we learned today of building an algorithm to help you in your task or in your challenge of trying to complete these activities. Now remember, those videos were there to help give you a hint. If you see a light bulb next to your character's name, you can see that they will also give you a hint. Okay, if you need it. The instructions are always along the top of the screen for you to see what you need to do. But remember to apply those principles that we've learned of building an algorithm. Okay, building that algorithm, building up a sequence of instructions that's going to tell our computer what it needs to do. Because remember, the computers are very, 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 very clever things. Okay, they can do an awful lot of things. However, we need to tell them what they need to do. We're the computer programmers, and we need to tell those computers, our computers, what they need to do. Okay, so have a go in your own time at trying to finish the Minecraft Voyage Aquatic tutorial on code.org. Okay, if anybody does need any help, you can contact us, like I've said, via the TechnoCamp's website. Okay, and of course we will do our best to get back to you as quickly as we can. Remember, there are the tutorial videos, there are a series of different bits of information available and hints that you can use to help you with completing these challenges. Okay, so feel free to do that, and then feel free of course then to move on to the next set of challenges, such as the Minecraft Hero's Journey and other challenges as well, to help you to build on your programming knowledge. Okay, so thank you very, very much everybody for participating today. If you are in the Wednesday Techno Club, I will see you all tomorrow at 4:30 for that. And next week, during this TechnoLive session, we will be actually looking at real-life Minecraft, and we will be having a look at how we can actually apply these programming principles that we have learned this week in a real Minecraft environment, okay, and in a real Minecraft world, to help us build a particular structure. Okay, so like I said, thank you very much everybody for participating today. Any questions, contact us via the TechnoCamp's website's contact facility with the chat with one of the delivery team options down here, and we will get back to you as quickly as we can. But other than that, thank you again, and I will see you all next week.